I mean, I document how, first of all, progressives have just lied about what Portugal and Netherlands did. So this research shows that Amsterdam, Lisbon, Vienna, Frankfurt, Zurich, they all did the same thing to break up these. So they had these open drug scenes where people are using heroin in public. They didn't have the tents, but it was the same thing we have in San Francisco and Vancouver. Really all these cities around the United States where you have the homeless encampments is a euphemism for what the Europeans call open drug scenes. They all had a period in Europe where they just did the whole social services, offering methadone, would you like some help? Would you like some care? Yeah, no thanks. Or we'll take the methadone, but we'll keep using heroin. It didn't work. It didn't work anywhere. And so, and there's a great paper on this. They finally, surprise, surprise, had to arrest people. They had to use law enforcement. And the point was, they don't mandate treatment. You have a choice. You can either get off the street. You can't be on the street shooting heroin in Lisbon. I interviewed the head of Portugal's drug program. I said, what do you do if you find somebody shooting heroin in the streets of Lisbon? He goes, they would be arrested. I was like, they would be arrested because if you listen to progressives in California or the United States, they would say, oh, in Portugal, they just decriminalized drugs and everything was fine. It's a total lie. It's a big lie. They arrest the addicts. They take them to the police station. If they have more than personal consumption, then they get prosecuted. If they have personal consumption amounts and they're using it in public, then they put them in front of something called commissions for the dissuasion of addiction, which includes judge, prosecutor, defense attorney, social worker, psychiatrists, your family. So they're using these coercive methods to compel. They don't call it mandatory. You don't have to. You can remain an addict, but you can't be on the street using drugs. And you can choose if you want to get clean, we're going to provide drug treatment for you, or you can go to jail if you keep breaking the law. That's how it is in all these cities. It's slightly different in the different cities. Why don't we do that here? And what I get to the punchline is because of victim ideology, which says, no, that would be blaming the victim. And blaming the victim, you go right to that. You go, this is the most sinister introduction, ideological introduction of this idea that some people are victims and essentially victims, and only things should be given to them.
Well, one of the real problems with that, so imagine that you have a conception of pure victimization. Well, then you instantly have to posit a class of pure malevolent oppressors. Because who else could be possibly victimizing the pure victims? It has to be complete perpetrators. Well, that's unbalanced thinking, right? Because we're all victims in some sense, of history, of death, of illness, and we're all perpetrators too. And you have to contend with that seriously. And that mucks up the clean categories, especially if you want to be, pure, let's say, easily. That's not an easy thing to manage, and you never will quite manage it. So, I'm very much looking forward to reading that book.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really attracted to the hero's journey. I talk about, obviously it's a very powerful, if you believe Joseph Campbell, it's a powerful meta narrative or meta myth for Western societies. In San Fransicko, the real heroes are people that recovered from their addictions. And so in that process, they are victims. Victimization is a temporary stage. It's a stage in the center of that journey that you overcome. And that is, I mentioned civil rights and Gandhi and, Nelson Mandela and whatever. And you kind of go, that's what we're drawn to in those stories. We're drawn to the heroism. So that's all gone here. Instead, it's these people are victims and only things should be given. Nothing should be asked.
No, it's also the case, if you know the addiction literature, this is particularly true with alcoholism, but it's not unique to alcoholism. It's been known among hard-headed addiction researchers for like 60 years that one of the most reliable cures for alcoholism, and there aren't any others, by the way, regardless of what treatment center people say, is spiritual transformation. And at its base, that's a reflection of something like the hero's journey.
Absolutely.
And that's a hard-headed reality. And, you see that happening pharmacologically to some degree now with, the people who are doing the research with psilocybin, showing, dramatic effects on cigarette smoking, for example. Mm-hmm. Psilocybin produces this mystical experience, and that has this curative Now, that's all needs to be unpacked. It's like it's not just some chemical thing happening. It's very, very complicated, way more complicated than we can possibly understand. But yeah, so if you're just the victim, well, you're certainly not the hero. And well, maybe being the hero is actually your way out of the addiction. Because look at it this way, man, you need something better to do than to be addicted. And that's not an easy thing to find because those damn drugs hijacked your pleasure systems. Cocaine, amphetamines, heroin, the real killer drugs, they hijack that. And so to get out of that, you need something better. Well, yeah, good luck. That happens, but